Chinese proverb warns us that if we do not change direction, we are likely to end up exactly where we are headed. Applied to contemporary humanity, this would be disastrous. Without a change in direction, we are on the way to a world of increasing potential for social and political conflict, escalating maverick and organized warfare, food, water, and energy shortages, worsening industrial, urban, and agricultural pollution, and accelerating reduction of biodiversity. We also run the risk of mega disasters caused by nuclear accidents and leaking nuclear waste, devastating floods and tornadoes, and widespread health problems owing to natural catastrophes, as well as to such human factors as accumulation of toxins in soil, air, and water, acceleration of change, in many other scenarios. Where we are now headed is not where we want to go. We also expect to see negative consequences of factors such as genetic engineering, nanotechnology, intelligent robotics, acceleration of change, information technology, energy technologies, and many other scenarios. Would only a few be enough to create the possibility of an evolutionary crash in the 21st century? Or will a monumental leap toward global consciousness aided by revolutionary technologies be the leading edge for a global breakthrough scenario, a planetary renaissance? In civilizations far beyond ours, we have to expect three types of civilizations: Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3. We are Type 0. We are a civilization rent by nations and wars and fundamentalist passions. We expect to see the birth of a Type 1 civilization, a truly planetary civilization. The internet is a Type 1 telephone system. We are beginning to see the birth of a Type 1 culture. The most dangerous transition is from Type 0 to Type 1. By the time you have attained Type 1 status, you have a planetary culture, a planetary ethic, a planetary spirit, a planetary way of looking at crises around the Earth. At Type 0, you are talking about a fragmented civilization based on greed, plunder, and the strong make the rules. So the transition from Type 0 to Type 1 is, without doubt, the most stupendous. But it is also the most dangerous.
You know, we might think we're going to live in a virtual world and it's just going to be plugged into everything. But you know, there's a physical reality that supports that virtuality. The energy comes from someplace. And they really are still, you know, biological beings. Now, some people might think that, well, sooner or later the biology just is superseded. And it could be, but there's still a larger living universe. Our biology is our biology, but you know, the Earth is the Earth and the universe is the universe, and it ain't a machine.
Now, if we begin to do biological intervention, genetic or brain intervention, all bets are off. Then the human species doesn't exist as a species anymore. It's a chimera that we have created.
But ultimately, you know, we're interested in how the planet gets intelligent. So, you know, right now, I would assess our state in the world as real simple. We're really bright and collectively really stupid.
It's the dumbing down of public culture, the commercialization and sensationalization of it that worries me. And so I think if, in the dystopias of the world, Huxley's more on the right track than Orwell, in the sense that we could see a hedonistic culture that has lost its moorings in any deeper commitments if we don't really watch out.
We call the third order the socialized mind, because the mind is no longer just a free agent, and it feels like me. In other words, I don't feel that I'm mirroring, I don't feel that I'm copying, I don't feel I have no mind of my own and I'm doing what others are telling me to do. I feel that these are my own choices, and that I do have a mind of my own. But the nature of that mind is one that is shaped by these surrounding values. Being caught in the matrix, being vulnerable to groupthink.
Psychological experiments do show that people will even say something that they know to be false because of peer pressure. They doubt the evidence of their own senses.
A lot of people kind of come to the conclusion that the changes we need in the external manifest world are not likely to be achieved without changes in our inner world.
Well, I think, there's some truth to that if people aren't willing to engage in that kind of introspection and struggle, probably, in the end, the world won't change very much.
We have a very, very strong ally in thinking about the possibilities of more and more of this world consciousness. We will need more of this fifth order consciousness to resolve these kinds of things, and that it is true from a research point of view that we see only a small percentage of even these very advantaged samples construct the world at that order of complexity.
We are asleep. We are asleep.
What would it mean to wake up? And what might be some of the both precipitating or catalyzing events and the underlying kind of process? What does it really mean to have this kind of awakening? And I think it's clear that it's going to be very hard for that to occur in a state of fear. And I think at some level that may be one of our biggest problems. And maybe it's the first really effective wake-up call that we really are biological. They really do live in a living world, and there ain't no substitute for it. It's not the only symptom. There's lots of symptoms. Species have been disappearing at an unprecedented rate now for half a century. And we are, without doubt, the first species in the history of Earth that systematically destroys species. It's never happened before. So that's alarmed a lot of people for a long time, but they're a little tiny niche, right? For most of us, being as disassociated as we are from the physical, natural world, we might feel a little pang for a moment, but it's just not part of our reality. There's a little inkling of, oh my God, we might not have a future. And when you talk about the 4 horsemen or the 84 horsemen, all these apocalyptic, future realities that kind of confront us, of course that can really induce fear, and people can shut down and give up and just go back into denial or despair. So sure, people can say, oh, it's terrible, and you just focus on the negative, but that's the denial part, right? So you've got to first go through that. And I think then all the kind of artistry in this work is around how you just hold it. Don't make a big deal. See, for each of us as individuals, we have to watch our own fear and anxiety. Because if you communicate the same facts or the same idea in a state of fear, people will get the fear before the facts. But if you go, isn't that interesting? But your kind of gestalt about it is that this is our opportunity. If you really think that, well, this species has always been kind of on a path of an awakening to being actually a healthy global presence, not just a healthy local presence for life on the planet, you go, well, now's our chance.
We've seen a rapid degradation of the quality of news, the general dumbing down that comes from the fact that they're interested in sensation, they're interested in Hollywood stars. Therefore, the public culture becomes very impoverished. So it's got to be in the hands of individual people, and because nations are increasingly powerless by contrast to multinational corporations that have such great power to determine living conditions, who is going to rein them in but their own consumers? I think that consumers are the ones who have got to be active and aggressive and try to make the multinationals realize that doing good business means supporting human capabilities.
And the worst are filled with passionate intensity.
I think the pockets of examples are really important, but I think if we can just hold that simple awareness that we're on a path that has no future, and then just start talking to each other and realize that it's actually a universal problem, and I think a lot will start to change. I think that is starting to happen, but there is a little kind of a, I don't know, I hate to use the phrase, kind of cognitive trick. It's really not a trick at all. It's just a capacity to hold that simple awareness, you know, that kind of raw awareness that we really do have a problem, and not let your mind and your emotional system habits go off in the deep end. We got to have hydrogen tomorrow, or we got to have this tomorrow. Well, who knows what we have to have? We have to have a lot of things probably, but we have to have the capacity to simply hold the awareness that we're all in this together, and we're on a path that has no future. That's it. I actually think that might be sufficient. I think the big difference of today is that it may no longer be a debate. See, I think, again, the historicness of this circumstance might be that enough people kind of can just look around the reality and say, probably we're not going to make it by ourselves. Enough people start to come to that awakening together and start talking to each other. And you start to reach this conviction that actually we're headed someplace that nobody wants to go. And then all the good guys, bad guys, you know, us versus them stuff starts to fade away a little bit. And you realize that as human beings, you know, nobody actually wants to destroy the natural environment upon which we depend. You know, the planet will carry on. It's not about saving the planet. You know, it's about, is there a space for our species and a lot of other species? At that point, I believe all kinds of things become possible. In fact, I think almost anything becomes possible. You know, that this is the opportunity that is the most important opportunity in human history.
If the future is now, what are the options for radical action now? And how? And how?